Yo, what's up? What's going on? What's good, everybody? That's right. The Boxing Source is here with the Midweek Report. And we're jumping it right off with our special guest, of course, as he is a couple of weeks away from his next bout. That will be on the No Excuse Promotions card in Washington, D.C., where he faces Isidro Curiel. With a record of 14-2 with 8 wins by way of knockout. From Bowie, Maryland, and yes, he is a proud graduate of the Bowie State University, the sharpshooter himself, Greg Outlaw, is in the building, man. What's happening with you?
What's poppin'? What it do, brother?
Oh, man, all good, all good. Like I said, you got this big thing coming up here, June 28th. Entertainment and Sports Arena, having that fight with the Isidro Curiel, man, and I know that you're eager to get back there over in that particular arena. I know I was at the last fight that you had in there, first round knockout, man. That thing was only like a few seconds, man. So what is it to be ready and getting prepared for this about June 28th?
It's been good. It's always good to be fighting home, and we, like you said, back at the ESA arena. Last time we did, I had a spectacular performance, first round knockout, devastating one. So I plan on going in there June 28th and getting the job done by any means necessary.
Yeah, and that was against Wilfredo Buevas there where you're able to get that first round knockout. And, as mentioned, being part of this card for No Excuse Promotions, also ProBox TV, features a number of fighters there in the DC area. Like, what's it to, be part of this card here that's going to have like Lamont Roach Jr., Jordan Roach, Derek Davis, and Ben Johnson also from the DC area?
Man, it's a beautiful thing. Like you said, a lot of local talent. You got Derek Davis, as you said, Lamont Roach Jr., the headline, defending his belt. Yeah, I recently added Trayvon Marshall, the sniper, Jordan, Ben, Eric Hernandez, and a few other people, Rihanna Rios, and a few TV bouts. But it's a beautiful thing to be able to fight alongside some of your stablemates. I spar with them, and I train with some of them. So it's a beautiful thing. It's gonna be a lot of great fights. It's a stacked card, and it's the place to be, June 28th.
Yeah, no doubt. June 28th, of course, like you said, the ESA, man, Entertainment and Sports Arena. Tickets available, at Ticketmaster, and also through teamnoexcuse.com/tickets. So y'all be able to get your tickets. I know that you got a link on your social media as well for folks to get tickets too. So you also got to go on, the social media page there for Greg Outlaw and get tickets through there, man.
Hit me up.
Yeah, for sure. Now, in your last bout, you got an early stoppage victory over Rondell Herbert. And, a number of your, recent victories have been like, early KOs. Have you been like, working on power in camp, or have you been seeing like what your opponent's work spot is?
You always want to feel your opponent out, make sure, because everybody's a live dog. So, but I've always been strong, and I'm only getting stronger. Shout out to GPT. And I go in there behind my jab, be smart, and then I know I can punch. If I hit you clean the right way, I know it's not good. And if you make any kind of face or any kind of like gesture, I know like you're on your way out probably. I just gotta stay patient, stay smart, and just get the job done.
Yeah. So if you see a weakness there, man, it's almost like, hey, man, I already know it's over. It's over.
It's over. It's about that time. You know what I mean? You just, like I said, stay patient. Just chop that tree down slowly but surely if I need to, and then when it's time, I know it's time.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Now, a number of fighters, in the boxing game, have like ties with their family as far as like coming up, as an amateur, as a pro. And one thing that stands out with you is that you've had your mother there be a key part of your career and being involved in your career. Like, how is it having her be there, for you, not just outside of boxing, but also, when it comes to the business game?
I think I'm a mama's boy. She's been in my life, of course, forever. She's been to every sporting event I had. She support me to the no limit. She's gonna do whatever it takes. She wants her kids to be successful. So I call her Suge Knight. I don't know what she do for make these people buy these tickets, but she get the job done. And I can't I'm so appreciative of her. She's the one. I don't know what she do. She won't tell me her secret, but as long as she get the job done, I don't care.
Okay, so you be behind, a whole lot of people that be in attendance for these fights, man. I know that you have your definitely your support group up there. Of course, the GSO. You got the GSO shirts. So hey, they got the gear too, man. Them GSO shirts, so folks be able to get that as well, man.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I know for a lot of the fights that have been there with you on, there's been like a huge crowd. They're supporting you there for sure. So I know that your mother is definitely behind all of that.
Team Outlaw, we in the building. We put the cheeks in the seats, so we'll be there, no question. But you're gonna see a crowd with GSO on, and they're gonna come to represent.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. One thing also is that you kind of stress that you're very active in the community. Doing a lot of charity work. Like how important is that to incorporate that with what you got going on?
I think it's major. I grew up in a neighborhood where I didn't really see that a lot. All you saw was a lot of negative things. So I want to give back to the community, and I think I have a passion to help older people. I think because of my nana. So I love my nana. Those who follow me know me and my nana's relationship, that I love her to death. So I'm a coach at a thing called Rocksteady, which is people who would have Parkinson's, and a lot of them are probably about 50 years old and all the way up to like 80 something. And I'm there with them on Wednesdays. So like I said, being giving back to the community, always being a helping hand that's who I've always been.
Word, for sure, for sure. Now, what would you say is like the most enjoyable thing about being a pro boxer?
I think for me is really it's probably making my own schedule in the sense, like not having to get up to go to an office for a 9 to 5. I'm not saying nothing wrong with that, but like I ain't gonna say I don't like structure, but I don't like being told what to do sometimes. So just being to get up and just do my own thing, and I know that if the effort I put in, that's if I can control this, you know what I mean? I don't have to rely on a team or nobody else. I mean, I have like a team, my coaches and but
Right.
when I'm in the ring, I have to execute. It'll show if I'm getting tired or whatever I'm doing wrong. It's probably the lack of preparation. So I make sure I put my all into the sport, and just being to get up and just follow my dream and be stress free for real. You have the stresses of life, but I'm blessed. I don't. Every day you ask me how I'm doing, I say every day is a good day. That's like my slogan. Every day, that's what I say all the time.
Yeah. Now, someone told me that as far as like boxing, it's like your sole proprietorship. So you pretty much like handle everything. Like everything, falls on you as far as like you said, like when you set a schedule to get to the gym, how often you get to the gym, how hard you work, everything, like all the results, it pretty much like falls on you. You know what I'm saying? So it basically builds like self-reliance, so to speak, in a sense with that.
Best sport ever. That's why I stopped playing team sports. I stopped fighting. I wanted to fight my teammates a lot, and I'm a sore loser. So if I lose, it's usually because I didn't do my job, or I control it. That's the best thing about boxing. I control the sport essentially. You know what I mean? I mean, if you go to the distance and your judges ultimately control it, but the job itself I can control. You know what I mean? So it's a beautiful sport, lonely sport, but beautiful sport.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Now, who would you say are like fighters that you looked up to or look up to now in the pro game?
Looked up to Muhammad Ali is my favorite fighter of all time. You got Floyd Mayweather because people don't like him, but he did it. He did it. Probably got the highest paid fights and broke a lot of records, and he's a great guy. Currently, I like Canelo. I like Terrence Crawford, a bad man. I like Earl Spence, Javante Davis, of course. I mean, I can go on. I like local fighters. I'm a fan of boxing, so I like a lot of people.
Yeah, true that. Now, you said you were involved in team sports. You kind of like told me that before. Do you still like follow the thing there with like football or basketball or whatnot?
I follow, of course. I'm a Commanders fan here. And then basketball, I like LeBron. My favorite player is Allen Iverson. I like LeBron. He's out. So I'm just, but I follow all sports. I thought I was gonna be the next Sean Taylor or something growing up. I don't know. Barry Sanders, Michael Vick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but like you said, I mean, being a part of a team sport, it's like, hey man, I don't know if I could rely on these other people, man. I got to do this thing on my own, man. Let me get, let me keep with this boxing game. So I ain't got to worry about nobody else.
We saying the same thing, 100%, 100%.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. Now, of course, you had this fight here going up against Isidro Curiel. Like, what is like some things that you might want to say that you're looking forward to with this particular bout, as far as like facing him with the record that he has there at 11 wins, 3 losses, and 1 draw.
I'm excited. Like you said, it's a good record. He's a durable guy from Mexico, and I think this fight I'm going to show my skills a lot more than ever before. For the real sharpshooter, be sharp, be smart, and ultimately break him down. He's durable and he's tough, but I'm gonna ultimately break him down, I think, and by any means necessary, I'm gonna get the job done. But I'm excited for this. He's gonna make me bring some skills out. He's gonna throw us, I think, some wild punches, and it's gonna be a good night.
Yeah, for sure. Now, I mean, with this being a thing for like ProBox, I mean, this is they're kind of like what I'd say branching out, so to speak, because a lot of the times they're over there in like Plant City, Florida, having their presentations there in Plant City, Florida. So how is it to kind of like be involved in something like this alongside with No Excuse Promotions?
I was just about to say that. Shout out to Big Lamont and No Excuse Promotions who put me on the card. And originally I was not on the card, but I was training for a June date, and then my big bro Martin basically like, just go ask, and I was like, can I get on the what's going on? And then I got on the card, and he was like, it's a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I have me? Especially any promoter in the local area want me on the card anyway. I'm gonna bring the people making some money. So
yeah,
it was a good thing. It was beautiful.
Yeah, for sure. Like shout out to Lamont Roach Sr. there, having you on the card. Like I said, it's gonna be a very great experience there, of course, with the sharpshooter, no doubt. Top to bottom with the card, but especially there with the sharpshooter. So, like I said, man, the number of people are definitely gonna be coming out for this. So hey, if you can, like hit the folks up with your social media handles so they can follow you, and go ahead and get those tickets here in the DC area.
At Sharpshooter Outlaw, all spelled regular. As you can see, the name I think popping up on the interview. But Sharpshooter Outlaw on every social media platform, and hit me up if you want to just talk about boxing, anything for tickets especially. But I'm down there. We could just talk. We could just chop it up, and I ain't hard to find.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Shoot the shit or whatever they say or whatnot. It don't matter. It don't matter. But like you said, I mean, you're just a couple weeks away from this big fight, so we're looking forward to that here. Just ready for you to go back to work, man. Big thanks for you joining us here, and we're definitely going to be seeing more of you here. Like I said, June 28th, Entertainment and Sports Arena, Washington, D.C. You see it, the sharpshooter, he ready. Greg, Sharpshooter Outlaw, man. Thanks for joining us here.
Thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, no doubt, man. So that's our guy, Greg, Sharpshooter Outlaw. Here, of course, he has that bout coming up against Isidro Curiel, June 28th at the Entertainment and Sports Arena in Washington, D.C. So we're definitely looking forward to that here over in the D.C. area. Like I said, tickets are available at Ticketmaster. And you also could go through teamnoexcuse.com/tickets. And you could, hit up, like I said, Greg Outlaw's social media page. You'll also have links to get tickets through Greg Sharpshooter Outlaw. Big ups to Just Do Boxing in the building. Salute to you, man. Like I said, y'all hit up Just Do Boxing on YouTube. Has great conversations on his channel there through YouTube. If you can, just go ahead and hit up his channel. He definitely has great conversations there on his channel when he's on live as well. But we're getting into this thing. What is it? June 12th, a few days out. Of course, we have what's going on in Las Vegas, Nevada there, the MGM Grand Garden Arena, the 100th boxing event at the MGM Grand Garden Arena, of course, headlined by Gervonta Tank Davis versus Frank Martin. Yeah, Frank the Ghost Martin, man. Definitely looking forward to this fight. I know we all know about what's been going on as far as like the promotion or the hype towards this fight. And we just had the whole thing with the press conference that ended a couple of hours ago. And that has been, highly confrontational. And it's pretty much, I'd say it's like mostly on the side of Tank Davis. And I haven't really seen, we haven't really seen Tank Davis be like this. Man, I don't know if it's something where it's like, I wouldn't necessarily say he's dismissive of Frank Martin like that. Because to me, in comparison, I'd say like, who would I say? Like how we approached the Rolly Romero fight. Like he was like, Rolly, but like this here, it's like a whole different Tank. Like you didn't see him like this against Ryan Garcia. You didn't see him like this, against like, of course, Hector Garcia, or Mario Barrios, or like any of those past fights. Like here, it's like he's, either like a newfound focus, or at least, that's what Calvin Ford is saying, or like something where he's like out to prove something. You feel me? So, I'm really looking forward to this fight here against Frank Martin. And, I've kind of like been in some conversations where some people are saying, hey, Frank Martin is a live dog in this fight, a live dog in this fight. And even though you have the odds, of course, odds makers out there, for those that, will put in money in that type of stuff, like they have Tank Davis as a fairly significant favorite there, like a minus 700 from, the time that I checked a couple of days ago there. I'd be rolling with DraftKings usually. That's who I usually be, going with, right? And like DraftKings, when I like checked the other day, it was like at minus 700 in favor of Tank Davis there. And I'm like, yeah, that's wide. That's wide odds. I think that's too wide of odds there. You know what I'm saying? Because that's like, 7-1. You feel me? But I'm like looking right now, and it's gone to like 600, minus 600. So 6-1 there in favor of Tank Davis. And then they got Frank Martin at plus 425 there. So you could get a little bit of value right now if you were going to pick Frank Martin. Like you'll put 100 down. If he win straight up there, you get, 425 on top of that. So, I feel like this here is going to be an interesting matchup, between these two fighters. Of course, you got Tank Davis there, of course, 29-0, 27 wins by way of knockout, stopping pretty much like everybody except for Stock Cruz and Jamon Mirage way back in 2014. Like those, that was the two times where his fights didn't end in a stoppage victory. Going up here against Frank Martin at 18-0 with 12 wins by way of knockout. You got Frank Martin there at 29 years old. You got Tank Davis at 29 years old. So, and both of these guys coming in this fight in a southpaw stance. You got Tank Davis there at 5'5.5" with a reach of 67.5. Frank Martin at 5'8" with a reach of 68. And the thing about it is that, in the past couple of fights that Frank Martin has had, he's kind of like dealt with, some interesting styles and some, interesting fighting guys there with like Michelle Rivera, Artem Harutyunyan, Jackson Marinez, those guys, kind of like prepare them for, different type of styles here as he's been coming up in the lightweight division. And of course, Tank Davis having his fights against Hector Luis Garcia and Ryan Garcia last year. But that's another thing there. That's a pretty good factor, is that it's been over a year since Tank Davis has been in the ring. Over a year since he's been in the ring. That last fight against Ryan Garcia was April 22nd of last year. Yes, Frank Martin did face Artem Harutyunyan last July, but it's kind of like a significant gap when it comes to Tank Davis when he had his last fight. Sometimes you want to be able to try to get as active as possible, but that extended layoff, of course, what happened with Tank Davis outside of the ring. And folks was looking to see what was going to happen there with Tank Davis, but you had the whole thing with the conversion of what was happening with, Heyman boxing or PBC at the time at the end of the year. So you couldn't really necessarily have Tank Davis be active at that particular point. And then you had the whole thing with them converting over from Showtime boxing over to Amazon Prime, so, and with him, with Tank Davis being one of the key folks there on Amazon Prime pay-per-view, they were looking to see what would be a prime date for Tank Davis to have his fight. And here we are. It's coming up June 15th against Frank Martin. And like I said, it's been a really, really hyped up fight up to this particular point. You see what happened there in the press conference earlier today. You seen Tank, talk a whole lot of trash towards Frank Martin, a whole lot of trash towards Frank Martin. And, there's some people that feel like, Frank Martin is kind of shook or whatever it is. Well, we're going to see. We are going to see on Saturday night. I think this is going to be a really, really good bout. With these two fighters. I think these two are two very skilled fighters here in the lightweight division. I mean, come on. These are, without question, two guys within the top 5 in the lightweight division. I feel like Frank Martin is a top 5 fighter there at lightweight. I feel like Tank Davis is there, pretty much among the top fighter in the lightweight division. Yes, over the likes of, Shakur Stevenson or, Vasyl Lomachenko or, anybody else that's out there. We have new world champions there in the lightweight division, but, Tank Davis has been well established here at 135 pounds and has, those, like I said, those key wins over like Ryan Garcia or, Rolly Romero or Isaac Cruz, who now is a world champion at 140 pounds. Mario Barrios, who, Tank defeated at 140, is now a world champion, or pretty much going to be a world champion at 147 pounds. So, there's been a number of key wins that Tank Davis has had over the course of his pro career here, particularly within the last few years. And he's kind of like been in the big stage here over, since his fight against Yuriorkis Gamboa. So he's kind of been here in this atmosphere, bright lights, all this attention. We pretty much they said he's like the face of boxing. He had a conversation there with Leonard Ellaby there that's promoted Tank, for the majority of his career, saying that he's the face of boxing. So, now it's like, okay, this is like yet another fight where he showcased, where he could say, not only am I pretty much saying that I'm the biggest star in boxing, but I'm like one of the best fighters out there in the sport. So if he's able to do that and have a great performance here against Frank Martin, then man, I wouldn't necessarily would see anybody else within the lightweight division that would be able to beat him. I feel like this may be his toughest challenge at 135 pounds. Yes, that does include a couple of fighters that, he's yet to face there at 135 pounds. But I think the overall style and the intangibles that Frank Martin has is going to be a huge factor in this fight on Saturday night. And I also feel like, him having, or Frank Martin having, Derek James in the corner is going to be a real key factor here in this bout too. You know what I'm saying? I think that he's going to be able to gauge, the distance between him and Tank in this, and be able to be more, efficient in his offense. Like you have Tank Davis, who, kind of like is not really somebody that is overly aggressive. They're very economical. Pretty much like waits until he sees what happens with his opponent before he pretty much makes his move. A lot of the times he acts as a counterpuncher, so I pretty much say that that Tank Davis is going to be in a counterpunching style in this one as well. You know, you've seen that against Rolly Romero. Rolly Romero like had some success, particularly within the second, third, and fourth rounds where he kind of like initiated the offense. But it was just to that point where Tank Davis kind of like said, okay, you know what? I've kind of figured out what you're doing here. So I'm going to set up a trap. And that's exactly what Tank Davis did there against Rolly Romero, was set up a trap. And in the fight against Ryan Garcia, you've seen there with, and then, you know, the end of the first, and then starting up in the second round, where Ryan Garcia was a little bit, you know, successful as far as like being the aggressor in that fight. The only thing is that once Ryan Garcia got caught with that left hand that sent him down to the canvas in the second round, he toned down a little bit with, you know, his level of aggression, because he wasn't, you know, he was like too wary of what Tank Davis there was going to do. You know what I'm saying? So there was that. But also, you also got to take into account that with Tank Davis too, right? Like, I think this is one thing that is kind of underrated there with Tank Davis, is that he also is a good fighter when it comes to distance. You know, as far as like, you know, being able to see what his opponent is doing when they're able to throw the punch, how, you know, how far they could throw the punch, and him being able to, you know, swat off the punch, block the punch, or, you know, do a catch and shoot, so to speak, right? Because like you've had instances where, like, say for example, even in, like the fight against Hector Luis Garcia last January, right? Like Hector Garcia only landed at like 16% of his total punches over the course of that fight. And of course, you know, that one went through, you know, like what it was, like pretty much like 8 rounds, so to speak, right? And 16% punches landed with only like 5 jabs. It said 5 jabs according to the punch stats there. So I mean, that's like very impressive, you know, when it comes to the defensive prowess there of Tank Davis. You know, but I see with Frank Martin, he's going to be like I said, he's going to be very economical with his offense, and then try to build off of that. You know, but the thing is, he can't get too eager. He can't get too excited about if he has early success there against Tank Davis, because, like I said, that's where Tank could pretty much set you up, because, you know, he could give you a sense of, you know, confidence that you could probably do a little bit more on him, and then he'll just, you know, switch to another level and catch you. You know, like I said, you had the thing there with Rolly Romero. Like even in like the Mario Barrios fight, you kind of like seen him, you know, switch up on Mario Barrios and give him a different look, and then you know, pretty much the whole fight changed at that particular point. You know, so you gotta be wary of the multiple dimensions of what Tank Davis has there. And you know, I keep hearing it from his coach, you know, Calvin Ford. Like he keeps saying, hey, you haven't seen the best of Tank. And, you know, even in the conversation that was had there in the press conference, like Calvin Ford said, you know what, I'm liking this because, you know, I want to see what Tank is capable of. He feels like he hasn't seen what Tank is capable of in his previous fights, in his previous 29 fights. And that he feels like Frank Martin might be the person that brings out the best out of Tank Davis. So, you know, we got to see how that's going to work itself out, because I'm expecting a real good fight, you know, for as long as it lasts. I mean, you know, like I said, I'm still wary of those odds of like, you know, 6-1 in favor of Tank Davis in this fight against Frank Martin. I mean, it's almost like the books there aren't really giving Frank Martin that much of a chance when it's like that much of a separation. -600 in favor of Tank Davis, plus 425 towards Frank Martin. You know, so that's pretty sizable odds there. And, you know, I mean, we got to see, how that's going to go. We got to see how that's going to go. For me, I feel like Frank Martin is going to have some success early, but I think with the way that he moves around, eventually Tank Davis is going to figure out his movements and make the proper adjustments here in this fight, and that Tank Davis is going to pretty much like take over in the middle rounds, around like 5 or 6, and then aim to close the show about round 7 or 8. That's usually when he gets more successful. That's when he knows what he's able to do against his opponent. And once he does know that, that's when he kind of like picks up his offense as far as like whether it's precision or overall activity. And I think that's going to be enough to overwhelm Frank Martin there within round 7 and 8. And I feel like by the 8th round, it might be too much there for Frank Martin. So yeah, I'm leaning towards Tank getting a win. I'm leaning towards Tank getting a stoppage win. I mean, I am. Even with the whole thing as far as like the he's facing a quote unquote black fighter that is a southpaw himself that could give him pretty much like much different look than all of the other fighters that he's faced, like the Garcias and the Yuriorkis Gamboas and the Romeros and the Cruzes, like 2 Cruzes, of course, Isa Cruz, Leo Santa Cruz, so that's pretty much like all that he's fought for the majority of his career, and now it's like, okay, this is something where it's like, oh yeah, now I know that this may end up being like a real good fight, real good fight. But like I said, I mean, one thing with Tank Davis is like he's able to make adjustments within a few rounds, and then is able to figure out his opponent. And once he's able to figure out his opponent, it's pretty much a wrap. It's pretty much a wrap after that point. So that's what I'm leaning towards. I'm leaning towards Tank Davis getting the stoppage. Win this. I feel like Frank could like throw a little bit of a wrench here, but I'm like I haven't like really seen it out of him. Like there's things that he does that's on point and really good. But like, does he have something that could stand out that would make him a real serious threat against Tank Davis? Like, one thing is, like I said with Tank Davis, having one of the highest knockout ratios out there. Like, is he going to be able to take the power there from Tank Davis, the power and the speed? I'm not all too sure about that. Now, I know that Tank Davis had mentioned, like in the initial press conference, last month, that was May 4th, over there in Las Vegas, that like he feels like that Frank Martin is too muscle bound, that he's not, able to be free flowing, so to speak, with his punches and his punch output. And even today he was talking about, maybe that Frank Martin was having maybe some issues trying to get down to the 135-pound limit. So, I mean, I'm not all too sure, but I think that it's still going to be a very interesting bout for Tank Davis to, kind of go through, because, I think that he's looking or planning to have a run where he's facing like a Frank Martin, and then, maybe a, Lomachenko or a Shakur Stevenson here, soon down the line. So a lot of these guys here, when you talk about southpaws, hey, here we go. You're going to have one southpaw here in Frank Martin, right? And then you're going to have like yet another one there potentially against Vasyl Lomachenko. And of course, you're going to have there Shakur Stevenson, all of them southpaws right there in the lightweight division. So, hey, maybe Tank Davis has a little bit of a plan of sorts where he's going to be, facing, Frank Martin as a southpaw, Lomachenko as a southpaw, and then Shakur Stevenson as a southpaw. So pretty much like having a plan to get himself used to fighting these guys there out of the southpaw stance. So that might be his plan here for 2024 and 2025. But he still has to take care of business first here against Frank Martin on June 15th. Like I said, it's on Amazon Prime pay-per-view there in the MGM Grand Garden Arena in Las Vegas. Really looking forward to this card, this overall card too. You have, of course, in the co-feature bout there, David Benavidez versus Alexander Gvozdyk. There with Gvozdyk only having that lone loss to Artur Beterbiev back in 2019, but he ain't really fought that much until last year. Like he had 3 fights last year, but before that, like he ain't fought since that 2019 loss to Beterbiev, where he ended up getting stopped. Now, think about it was like even in that particular fight, like some folks were saying that maybe he was winning that fight. But then the 10th round, it was just that, Beterbiev overwhelmed him and ended up getting stopped in that bout. So, there was that, but he's had like 3 bouts since then. He's over there with who was it? Eddie Reynoso. You think he has Eddie Reynoso as his trainer there, but he's still dangerous there at 6'2" with a reach of 75 there. And David Benavidez, of course, undefeated 28-0, was the WBC super middleweight champion, but had held the interim super middleweight championship, of course, waiting to see if he could get a fight with Canelo Alvarez. But since that didn't really pop off, now he's saying that he wants to go ahead and campaign at 175 pounds, and his first fight will be against Alexander Gvozdyk. Like I said, he's there at 6'2" with a reach of 74.5. They're at just 27 years old in comparison to Alexander the Nail Gvozdyk at 37 years old. So yeah, I mean, Gvozdyk is pretty much long there as far as like his overall age is concerned. His debut was in 2014. So he's kind of like had a little bit of a shorter career than David Benavidez. But David Benavidez, of course, has had a number of these fights, key fights there in 2023 against Caleb Plant and Demetrius Andrade. Had the stoppage win over Demetrius Andrade in this last fight over in Las Vegas. And now he's looking to try to, make a name there at 175 pounds. Now, one of the big stories, or one of the interesting stories there in this particular bout was that maybe there was a little bit of complications there when it came to David Benavidez. There had been some rumors circulating that he had something go down early in camp. That could have been a setback. And for those that were that have been observant, looked like he had like a little bit of a laceration of sorts or something something that was above his left eye. So for this upcoming bout against Alexander Gvozdyk, that's one thing that I'm going to be looking out for, is if David Benavidez is going to be able to perform at a high level, which some people have said that he's going to be definitely ready to perform at a high level here against Alexander Gvozdyk. But if he does take a few shots there around that left eye, how that's going to end up being, I feel like that's going to be a key factor here in this bout. This is for the WBC interim championship at 175 pounds. And it's like I said, that's another top bout there at the 175 pound division. Of course, we can't necessarily get Dimitri Bivol versus Artur Beterbiev. Supposedly it was going to be on October, but this thing here with Beterbiev, like his injury is too serious for him to even make October. So man, I don't think we ever gonna get that fight between Bivol and Beterbiev, man. So we might get the next best thing here if David Benavidez gets his win over Alexander Gvozdyk, right? We could possibly get Benavidez versus Bivol. I wouldn't mind that fight at all at 175 pounds. I wouldn't mind that fight at all. But it's like I said, we definitely got to see what happens here with Benavidez going up against Alexander Gvozdyk. But when I talk about those odds earlier with Tank Davis and Frank Martin, like I said, they had Tank Davis at minus 600. Here they got David Benavidez at minus 650. Minus 650 against Alexander Gvozdyk. I guess they say, hey, maybe Gvozdyk is, pretty much at the end here. But like I said, he only got that one loss. You only got that one loss to, Turbiev. So it's like, okay, like y'all writing them off already. So I'm not all too sure about all that. I'm not all too sure about that. But we'll see how this goes because I'm looking to see here with David Benavidez. Of course, he's been trying to see if he could get in there with Canelo Alvarez. Canelo Alvarez ain't really, inclined to be fighting David Benavidez at this particular point. So Benavidez is like, okay, you know what? Let me do what I was basically doing here at 168, trying to fight the best fighters available in my weight class, which he did last year with that Caleb Plant and Demetrius Andrade. So now he's going up to 175, saying, hey, who are like some of the best fighters out here, 175 that's available for me to fight? Okay, let me go ahead and go after him. So he's going after Alexander Gvozdyk. So that's going to be a good little thing here. Very interesting to see how those fighters kind of like be able to perform here at this stage. They're at the co-feature bout 2, Tank Davis versus Frank Martin. Man, I feel like that's another intriguing bout too. But it looks like some people are saying like with David Benavidez, like even with what may have happened in camp, like outside of that, he's been in tip-top form and being able to do that. You know what I'm saying? Big ups to Matt Gomez in the building here live, yo. We said, hey, David Benavidez should just stay busy and stack up his chips. Hey, yeah. I mean, we got to see how many folks are basically interested in Benavidez and following Benavidez there to build momentum, because I still there still might be a chance if we could get David Benavidez versus Canelo Alvarez. There still might be a chance that we get that. So I want to see how he performs here against Alexander Gvozdyk, and how much interest that people have in seeing David Benavidez in this fight and in fights in the future. Because yes, he was able to headline the cards last year, the one with Caleb Plant and then the one with Demetrius Andrade. So now, he's currently there as the co-feature to, Tank Davis there as Tank faces Frank Martin. But him facing Alexander Gvozdyk, I think that is a very good fight here for him to have as his first bout there in the 175-pound division. That's going to be a real good one there between those two. Now, of course, you have also on the pay-per-view portion there in the super lightweight division, Gary Antoine Russell versus Alberto Puello. Oh man, this one has been brewing since 2023. There's like a whole little thing about what could have happened there in 2023. Some folks are like brought it up that like when Alberto Puello was at the time the WBA champion, that Gary Antoine Russell's name was kind of like brought up, but then it didn't really go anywhere as far as like having that fight materialize in 2023. So you would have had Alberto Puello, fighting, what was it, Rolly Romero there, but then you had Puello ended up being scratched off because of a substance that was found in the system. So he ended up having to be stripped of that WBA title, and so you had the whole thing with Rolly Romero and what happened with that, right? So now here you have Puello, who's just getting back into it now. Ever since having a fight against Madera or Hector, what is it, Hector Madera, in December of last year, right? So he had that fight against Madera last year, ended up getting a decision win there for that. But now he's going up against Gary Antoine Russell, who many feel like is probably one of the top fighters there at the 140-pound division. And we had a conversation with Gary Antoine Russell, and he says that he is the top fighter at 140 pounds, and him, being like highly ranked, of course, they're in the WBC. What is it? They had him like number 2 in the WBC rankings, and he's been aiming to try to get that belt for some time now. And if he gets his win over Alberto Puello, like that puts him right in position to fight for that world title. And I think that he, like, this is one here where I think he's going to be able to show out. I know that there was one instance where he had a number of issues there against Rances Barthélemy there before he was able to get a stoppage victory there against Barthélemy, and like he was dealing with shoulder issues there in 2023, and then ended up fighting Kent Cruz. And that fight didn't even last long at all, man. Not at all. Only one round, basically. So him going up against Puello here, yet another undefeated fighter that he's going up against. Will he be able to continue his streak? He is currently 17-0 with all 17 wins by way of knockout. All 17 wins by way of knockout. Will he be able to get an 18th stoppage victory here? Have a 100% KO ratio against Alberto Puello. We'll see how that's going to go. We'll definitely see how that's going to go. You got Matt Gomez saying, "Hey, man, Russell is overdue. He's in the top 2." Yeah, man. I feel like he's definitely out there as far as like the top part of the 140-pound division. Of course, you got Devin Haney as a guy there that has the title. You got of course Isaac Cruz as the WBA champion for defeating Rolly Romero, right? You got Subriel Matias, and Subriel Matias is fighting this weekend there against Liam Parro, where he's defending the IBF belt. And then you have, of course, Teofimo Lopez, who's going to be facing Steve Claggett over in Miami here later this summer. So you got those 4 world title holders at 140 pounds, and Gary Antoine Russell is looking to fight every single one of them. He said he wants to get all of those world titles one by one, but he said that he's starting right here against Alberto Puello, and I think that one kind of like has been kind of like the talk over the past 6 months or so, given what I was saying about what could have happened last year. So I think that he's ready to go ahead and handle this first, and then after that say, hey, listen, let's see what goes down here with Devin Haney, because they said, hey, that Devin Haney is supposed to go into negotiations there with the current mandatory there in Sandor Martin. But yeah, I don't know if that whole thing is gonna come to fruition with all of that. I really don't. Like just being real, y'all. Like, come on, Devin Haney versus Sandor Martin. That ain't looking all too hot. Now, I mean, for Devin Haney, maybe that might be something like a pick me up of sorts. after what happened with Ryan Garcia. But as far as like overall interest in that fight, I'm doubtful that would really get any folks jumping. You know what I'm saying? Devin Haney versus Gary Antoine Russell, yeah, that would probably get folks jumping. Or a unification bout with Devin Haney and Teofimo Lopez, that would probably get folks jumping. But Devin Haney and Sandor Martin, I don't know all of that. You know what I'm saying? He said, lightweight needs to clean out the division like Pernell Whitaker. What's wrong with being a lineal champ? Man, boxing. That's pretty much how I could sum it up. Boxing, business of boxing. I don't know, man. Like I said, well, in reference to the lightweight division, I mentioned there with the main event. Tank Davis, he's there as a WBA champ. If he gets through this bout against Frank Martin, like you have the the road laid out for you. You have, like I said, Vasyl Lomachenko's IBF champ. You got Shakur Stevenson as a WBC champ. He's going to be fighting July 6th, right? And then you got who was it that just won the WBO? He beat Emmanuel Navarrete, right? So you got all of that pretty much like lined up for you right now at 135 pounds for Tank Davis. Like Dennis Berinchik. I don't know. They'll probably line up Berinchik to fight, Shakur Stevenson. If Shakur Stevenson stays with Top Rank, that's still up in the air, because you ain't gonna have Dennis Berinchik and Vasyl Lomachenko fighting each other. That ain't gonna happen, And I don't know. Maybe you could have, like I said, a tournament of sorts. We'll see what happens here first on June 15th. But the winner of the fight June 15th with Tank and Frank Martin could end up facing Vasyl Lomachenko, especially if it's Tank Davis. Like, think about it. Vasyl Lomachenko, he's able to win the belt, but he's there at like 36 years old, man. He's there at 36 years old, and he's kind of done what he basically has done here in the pro boxing game, even though he's only had like 20-some fights. 24, 20, no, ain't even 20. It's been 21 fights. Lomachenko's only had 21 fights in his pro career right now, and he's at 36 years old. Like, how much longer y'all think that Lomachenko's going to be in the ring? I don't even think it's going to be any more than 2 years. I really don't. So if it's going to be 2 years or less, with Lomachenko, you might as well see if you could get the biggest money fights you could possibly get. And at 135, there's only two names out there that Lomachenko could pretty much go after: Shakur Stevenson, Tank Davis. That's pretty much the gist of it. So I say either we have to see what happens with Shakur after July. If he sticks with Top Rank, then he'll probably end up getting a Lomachenko fight. But if not, you might see Lomachenko versus Tank Davis if Tank Davis wins. Feel me? So definitely have that to look forward to there within the lightweight division. Just touching on that there real quick. But Gary Antoine Russell versus Alberto Puello, man, that is going to be a pretty exciting bout for as long as it lasts there. But again, I know that some people, say that these fight cards are, really big and really good and stuff like that. But, the way that this thing is looking with the fight odds, man, especially with this, the pay-per-view card just being straight up. Like, if you're having odds of -600, -650, -700, or -750 for your favorites in these fight cards, I don't know, man. That would have to say that anybody that's not there as a favorite that wins, that would be considered like a significant upset. That's crazy. Like the thing with Frank Martin too, Frank Martin winning, like would that be that big of an upset? You might have to think about that. Well, like I was mentioning earlier though with Frank Martin is the top 5 lightweight. So if you're having Frank Martin as the top 5 lightweight, and yet he's a fairly significant underdog against Tank Davis, y'all saying that Tank Davis is that much higher than guys that are within the top 5 in the lightweight division. That's what pretty much the bookies are saying here with this. And it's almost like they're going at it like with Frank Martin and what he's doing and him going into the fight that people don't believe him. He's like, even with what you've done, even with how you've been in the game, like you've been in the game, just into boxing as like a teenager, like 15, 16 or something like that. Like almost like a newcomer, relative newcomer in comparison to Tank Davis has been, having gloves since 6 years old. So they're kind of like saying, hey, like I said, what is it, minus 600 for Tank Davis? Yeah, I'm like that's pretty much a pretty wide odds there. You know what I'm saying? That's not a good look. That's definitely not a good look. So my thing also too, you had what was it though? WBC middleweight title on that pay-per-view card, Carlos Adames versus Terrell Gausha. Yeah, but even with that one, man, that one's a good stretch there because you got Carlos Adames there, of course, that was WBC interim champion there at middleweight, man, and now he's been elevated to WBC full champion, going up against Terrell Gausha, who pretty much had campaigned the majority of his career at 154 pounds. He's had notable bouts against Austin Trout, Erickson Lubin, and Tim Tszyu there at 154 pounds. Also against Erislan De Lara at 154 pounds. So he's only had one bout at or above 154, kind of like that, 1 or 2 bouts above 154. So like him going up against Carlos Adames, who is pretty much established there at 160 pounds, there as one of the top guys at 160 pounds. Yeah, that's gonna be a real tough outing there for Terrell Gausha. I really don't see where Terrell Gausha could really affect Carlos Adames in this. You know what I'm saying? Adames, Teixeira, that was the long loss that Carlos Adames had. It was Patrick Teixeira. That was there back in when he was in the lower division, but once he's been up at 160, like he's had 4 stoppage victories out of the 5 fights that he's had since that fight against Patrick Teixeira there. So I mean, he's been looking pretty good here at 160 pounds, and him going up against Terrell Gausha, it's gonna be a real like a really tough outing there for Terrell Gausha. I feel like it's gonna be not good at all. Not good at all there in that particular instance. So I'm not really, just to be honest, I'm not really expecting Terrell Gausha to do some things there against Carlos Adames. Really not. You also have on the free portion there, on the YouTube portion, you're gonna have Mark Mexayo going up against Eduardo Ramirez. You're going to have Royman Villa coming off of his loss against Boots Ennis in Atlantic City last July against Ricardo Salas. And then Elijah Garcia, highly going up the ranks there in the middleweight division, going up against Kyron Davis. That particular bout, had been pushed to this card as you had, what was it? I think I think he had Elijah Garcia that was like ill, which forced him to not be fighting. I think it was going to be on the March 30th card. I think it was supposed to be on the March 30th pay-per-view card, if I'm not mistaken. But didn't end up being on that, so it ended up getting pushed to this particular date there with Elijah Garcia and Kyron Davis. So that's 7 fights there. That's going to be at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Like I said, headlined by the thing with Tank Davis versus Frank Martin. Like I said, with the whole press conference that went down, Tank Davis is like not looking like he's playing around at all. That he wants to. It looks like he wants to prove something. Like he really wants to prove something. Not just to Frank Martin, but to like everybody else in the lightweight division. That like Tank ain't really here to waste that much time with anybody out there in the lightweight division. That he just feels like he can't really be touched there in the lightweight division, so to speak. But he still has to prove it there in the ring on June 15th, at the MGM Grand Garden Arena. Like I said, I want to look forward to it. I'm going ahead. I'm getting the thing there on the pay-per-view. I can't, I couldn't be there this weekend. So, man, I don't know, man. Like all these Vegas joints, man. I can't be doing all this, man. I ain't like the Mike Carpenters and the Dan Raphaels and the who else they got out there? The Kevin Iolis and all those folks are there that's been established in the boxing media game for decades. I ain't that. So 1 or 2 trips over to Vegas, to cover the fights. That's pretty much like as much as I could do at this particular point. So, with me being out there for Canelo versus Munguia, that was, one, and then, maybe like one other one here, hopefully later this year, the tail end of this year, over in Vegas. That's why I'm like, we got to get some of these fights over in the East Coast, more of these fights in the East Coast, man. Like, come on, what are we doing? Like, I mean, New York City, I could get to New York City, you feel me? Like stuff like Philadelphia or like Atlanta or something like that, maybe as far down as like, Miami maybe or whatever, but, or even like going to Midwest, like Chicago, like have some fights good fights over in Chicago or something, you know what I'm saying? But like Vegas, or like you see what's happening in August. You got Los Angeles there with Bud Crawford going up against Madrimov, man. So like these 4 or 5 hour flights, man. Like it's getting to the point where it's like, come on, man. Like but like I say, it's not just the long flights. It's that and dealing with the time change. Like I mean. Me going to like a 4 or 5 hour flight or whatever it is, and I'm going to like Jamaica or like Bahamas or like further down to St. Lucia or Trinidad or something like that. Hey, I ain't got no problem with that. But going over to like Las Vegas or Los Angeles or San Francisco or San Diego, like, hey man, like, it takes a lot. I'm just being real. It takes a lot out of you. So with some of these fights, like, I mean, even with the joint with Ryan Garcia versus Devin Haney, at least we were able to have that over in New York this year. So at least we had like one significant or high profile fight over in the East Coast. But outside of that, we haven't had much of nothing at all for the past few years. And that's that hurts. That hurts. Outside of the Tank fights that were, here in DC, yeah, or maybe what was it in 2022 with the Barclays? That's pretty much it, man. But outside of that, we ain't really had much popping off like that. You know what I'm saying? So we need more of them. We need more of those type of fights or those events over here in the East Coast. But that some of them remains to be seen with that. But yeah, that's the fight card that we got over there in Las Vegas, the MGM Grand Garden Arena. all those fights, some folks are really looking forward to that fight card. But on the flip side, as I mentioned there with the odds, those odds are really, really significantly in leaning towards the favorites in those fights. Like minus 600 is like the lowest odds there for at least one fighter on that pay-per-view card. That's crazy. That's crazy though. But you had that, and also you got the IBF super lightweight champion Subriel Matias, that's going to be defending his title against Liam Parro. That is his second defense of the IBF super lightweight title. Some people say that maybe Subriel Matias is the number one fighter at 140 pounds. Had a conversation, or was part of a conversation with Coach Ronnie Shields yesterday on the War Week radio channel, or War Week Boxing, there with Joseph Herring, and Coach Ronnie Shields has said that like Subriel Matias is like one of the most dangerous fighters out there. Subriel Matias is a guy that is 20-1, and all of his wins have been by way of knockout. Yes, he avenged his lone loss to Petros Ananyan back in 2022 by stopping him. And he's had, the stoppage wins over Jeremiah Ponce to win the IBF title. His first defense, he ended up stopping Shojan Ergashev in something where I felt like it was a pretty good scrap there for about a couple of rounds before Ergashev had like dealt with some complications with his leg, so to speak. And then after that, Matias took over. He just absolutely took over after that particular point. Here he's going up against Liam Parro, who had his last bout where he ended up stopping Montana Love, right, in 6 rounds over in San Francisco. And Liam Parro is there at 24-0 with 15 wins by way of knockout, coming out of Australia with a height at 5'8", reach at 71, while Subriel Matias has the same dimensions, 5'8", reach of 71. And the thing is, it's like Subriel Matias, it's like, a lot of the times his opponents could be in the bouts regardless. Like they could show some signs of, doing some things to Subriel Matias, but it's like he really just walks through a lot of those shots that his opponents has. It just comes forward and just wears down, tires out, and it just ends up overwhelming his opponent, And that's the thing that, folks are looking at here against Liam Parro. Liam Parro is, there within that super lightweight division. He's kind of been as one of those guys that could be around 10 to 15 in the super lightweight division. But you got Subriel Matias that, looks like he's been a buzzsaw here at 140 pounds. And they really expect him to, take care of business here against Liam Parro. You talk about another thing there where those odds are significantly leaning towards the favorite. What do we have here with Subriel Matias over at DraftKings? Minus 750. We ain't even getting up with no minus 300, minus 240 or something like that. Of course, you had a few weeks ago or last month, actually, the whole thing with the undisputed heavyweight championship between Tyson Fury and Alexander Usyk. And those odds were close. They were minus 140, minus 130 to plus 125. So you see how close that was. Here in this weekend, man, we ain't even got none of that. We ain't got none of that with some of these fights, man. It's wild, man. It's crazy. What is it? Matt Gomez says, Matias is a smaller version of the great Don Curry, flat-footed and can hit. Yeah, you could say that. What was it? Yesterday, it was part of that conversation there with Coach Ronnie Shields and Joe Herring, and someone mentioned that Subriel Matias could be a mix of Miguel Cotto and what was it? The Ghost there at what was it, 168. And also said he had some elements of Sugar Shane Mosley. I'm like, oh, I don't know about Shane Mosley. I don't know about that. But Miguel Cotto, you probably could say he has a little bit of elements of a Miguel Cotto. But it said it was like a mix of like Miguel Cotto and Kelly Pavlik when it comes to Subriel Matias. You probably could say that. You probably could say that with Subriel Matias. He's like I said, he's a guy that is an aggressive fighter, loves to go forward and try to wear you down. Not necessarily something where he has a good ability to cut off the ring, right? But he's just able to not really care about what you do to him as long as he's able to get his offense on you. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, maybe that too. Oh, yeah, that too. I think he also mentioned Tito Trinidad. Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, they did mention Tito Trinidad as far as like who Subriel Matias reminds him of. Well, yeah, like a little bit of Tito Trinidad, as far as like him, being able to, wear down a number of his opponents. But I felt like Tito Trinidad was a faster fighter than Subriel Matias is at this point. So maybe more Tito Trinidad than Sugar Shane Mosley. Yeah, I definitely say definitely more Tito Trinidad than Sugar Shane Mosley. Like Sugar Shane Mosley at like 135 and 140, especially at 135, man. I don't know, man. Like if Mosley at like 135, man, like Shane Mosley at 135 was probably, I would say like he was like nearly unstoppable at that point. 135, and what's crazy is like he was able to go from like 135 all the way up to like 154 and challenge for world titles and be a world champion there at 154 pounds, man. And like I said, I mean, he's there as a International Boxing Hall of Fame. What was it? I think it's the 2021 class there that he was a Hall of Famer for that. But yeah, I think that Mosley was like one of my favorite fighters, coming up. So him, being able to handle business from 135 to 154, that's really, really impressive. Really impressive. And his fights against, Oscar De La Hoya, of course, are, good classics there. He had those fights against Fernando Vargas also in that close bout. He had a real close bout with Miguel Cotto, there. And then also, having the welterweight that welterweight title bout against Antonio Margarito, where he pretty much like dusted him up there, especially after they caught Margarito up with those wraps. You know what I'm saying? So that was definitely enjoyable for some in that instance. But for others, they had waited until Miguel Cotto had that rematch with Antonio Margarito there for quote unquote vindication. But yeah, Subriel Matias, maybe a little bit of Tito Trinidad, maybe a little bit of Kelly Pavlik, a little bit of elements of Kelly Pavlik in him. But as of right now, he looks like one of those top guys there at 140 pounds. And my thing is, I'm waiting for eventually. I doubt it's going to be this year, but likely be next year. At the top of the 140-pound division, Subriel Matias, Gary Antoine Russell. Also, speaking of the thing there with Subriel Matias, right? He recently had something on. I think I don't know, it's through his IG or through DAZN or something like that. He was like ranking 10 fighters there within the super lightweight division. And he had a whole lot of comments in reference to what was it, Devin Haney and Regis Prograis. So if you can go ahead and see if you could find that too. You know what I'm saying? Vernon Forrest was good, yeah, but Mayorga beat him twice. So, that goes to styles, man. Sometimes the styles, mesh where Mayorga will be able to beat a Vernon Forrest, where a style like a Vernon Forrest was just, the perfect style to beat a Shane Mosley. And what happened with the thing there with, what was it, like much later down the line with the Shane Mosley and the Mayorga? But I mean, that kind of like shows you sometimes styles do make fights. And the style with the Mayorga was just too much for Vernon Forrest to go ahead and handle. Even though like Forrest was a great fighter, but just couldn't adjust to the style there of Ricardo Mayorga. You know what I'm saying? So you had that. But that's the that Subriel Matias Leon Parro is the headlining bout on the zone. There's going to be over in Puerto Rico. They have also Angel Fiera versus Alfredo Santiago on that card, and Yankel Rivera versus Victor Sandoval. They're in the flyweight division. But yeah, they had Matchroom put this on, but this one was something for Subriel Matias to have a defense of the super lightweight title over there in Puerto Rico. So that's kind of like how that came about. But that's pretty much the gist of what's going down here in the sport of boxing. What else I'd say? I'm still, looking ahead to, what's going down in July. Of course, you have the thing there with Shakur Stevenson and Artem Hertunian over in Newark. You got Boots Ennis that's now going to fight David Evansian in Philadelphia. Evansian replacing Cody Crowley, right? So, and with that, right, they have Evansian. What was it? I've seen like Evansian ranked within the top 10. They're at welterweight within Ring Magazine or something like that. What else was out there? I don't think the the TBRB kind of like ranked Evansian or something like that in the welterweight division. Nah, they don't have them in the top 10, but I think they had the Ring Magazine had Evansian there in the top 10. But now you have some folks saying like, hey, why is Boots facing David Evansian or whatever it is? I'm like, that's who's available. There was some mention about potentially having Speedy Rashidi Ellis as being a replacement opponent. But I'm like, at this point, nah, I don't think so. Wait until later on down the line. I know that Rashidi Ellis right now is kind of like doing this thing with the Team Combat League. Busy with that type of with that stuff going down. And he's been doing pretty good there with that Team Combat League stuff. So he's staying fresh or keeping himself sharp there by doing that. But given the circumstances with the original opponent there, Cody Crowley, and how that ended up being like, through purse bid, like, you think that Rashidi Ellis would kind of like accept the fight with Boots Ennis with that type of pay? I don't think so. So now we got to see here what's going on with Boots Ennis, going up against Evansian, and if he ends up taking care of business against Evansian, then we'll see what happens next. He has that multi-fight deal with Matchroom Boxing, so now we got to see like what they're going to be able to materialize here with Boots Ennis. He's able to showcase and be a main event there over in Philadelphia, and those tickets were moving very well over in Philadelphia too. So he's going to have a very good crowd there on July 13th. But what will that lead to? What will that lead to? You got other guys that are sitting there that might be world title holders here pretty soon when Terrence Crawford moves up to 154 in August. So you may have like Brian Norman Jr. There, of course, who's currently the WBO interim champion. The thing with Mario Barrios as the WBC interim champion is they're kind of like saying that maybe Mario Barrios could face Manny Pacquiao by the end of this year. That would be really interesting there with that. And with the WBA, you do have Iamanis Stanionis, who did have his last fight a month ago. So, and Stanionis is a very, very solid fighter there in the welterweight division. But, who else is out there that, could really be an intriguing and attractive fight for Boots Ennis there at 147 pounds? When he was coming up, of course, he was, chasing likes of Errol Spence and Terrence Crawford, but they were just locked in to have that fight against each other there for undisputed at 147 pounds. And after that was like, okay, you know what, we're good. That's it. We did what we did. All we needed to do at 147. We're going ahead and we're moving up to 154. So that just leaves Boots Ennis there at 147, being the guy just looking around saying, where's all the star power at now at 147? Not quite there. So now it's up to him, I guess, to like try to organically build it. So we'll see what happens here over the next month if he's able to do that. But yeah, him getting that replacement opponent there. So, he actually has a fight and is able to be showcased there in his hometown of Philadelphia, PA against David Evangeline. I mean, that's going to be at least a good thing for him in that sense. But yeah, outside of that, as far as like getting big or high profile fights, there at 147, it's going to be really tough for him. Just being real, it's going to be pretty tough for him, particularly there being signed in the Matchroom. But we'll see how that type of thing works out here within the near future, because we have seen a few things happen within boxing that has been a little bit of a shakeup, so to speak. So if we see more things happening in the next, next 3 to 4 weeks, maybe you might have some potential fights open up for Boots Ennis, but that just remains to be seen how that goes, right? But with that being said, you had yesterday? Something about Turkey Al Sheikh potentially, quote unquote, buying boxing. That someone leaked out that he could present an offer to Matchroom, Queensbury, Golden Boy, Top Rank, they say PBC, but it's like Heyman Boxing, so to speak, Heyman Boxing or whatever it is. So like TGB Promotions, the five of the biggest like promotional companies that are out there in boxing, that Turkey Al Sheikh could, present potentially an offer to like buy out all of those promotional companies and have a boxing league, pretty much like one boxing league, almost like, mimicking UFC. Now, some people are saying, hey, maybe we're excited about this. This could really help out boxing. But I'm like, hold on, slow down a little bit. Just slow down with that. Slow down with that. A couple of things here. I'm gonna just be on it, right? They sling fights. He slings oil. Oh man. But I'm saying just slow down a little bit with that. One thing that you gotta watch out for is some people think that if you put it to where like one person or like one promotional company oversees like all of these fighters, that it eventually gets to the best fighting the best. Well, UFC, do we really get the best fighting the best? Not necessarily. Here in this instance, and we've had like this trial runs so to speak, with Turkey Outlaw Sheik right now. And are we quite getting the best fighting the best? At least not right now. At least not right now. Some of these cards, they might on paper look pretty enticing or pretty intriguing, but just being real, I don't know about all that. Like even with this thing August 3rd, we have to see, But like having one person or one promotional company see over all of these fighters, you might get some interesting matchups, but as far as like the top fights, no, it's gonna end up being the same thing that we have right now. In that, okay, if we're gonna have this fighter fighting this fighter, and they're at the top of the division or the top of the game, then they're gonna ask for a certain amount of money in order for that fight to happen. And are you gonna be able to properly, fund that, and then say, you know what, I'll go ahead and do this. I'll go ahead and host this fight, and not be worried about losing money. That's the thing. Are you worried about losing money? Losing lots of money? It looks like right now, it don't seem like Turkey Outlaw Sheik is all too concerned about all that. But we'll see here after more and more events that he puts up doesn't end up being as successful as he thinks it would be or that he would want it to be, and then says, hey, you know what? Losing this type of money, I ain't into, too hype about all that. So that remains to be seen how that goes. But we'll see if we can get more news on that. I don't think it's going to get any closer to fruition for a while now. I think it's just in the beginning stages of them trying to see if they could work something like that out. Where he just pretty much like quote unquote buys or finances all of this stuff there for all of the promotional companies. So I think you're already having a trial run of sorts with that right now, because we've seen the whole thing with the Queensberry versus Matchroom. You've seen the whole thing with the Day of Reckoning fight card there, where you have multiple fighters from different organizations or different promotional companies be part of that card. So you've already seen how that kind of like works, and then you're going to see more of it here on the fight card on August 3rd. So you're getting a taste of what that could be if he's all in on something like that. So it remains to be seen there with Turkey Outlaw Sheik how he's going to be able to handle if he wants to go ahead and buy out all of the promotional companies and have like a singular boxing league of its own. So we'll see how that goes. But with that being said, that kind of like is drawing this particular midweek report to a close. Of course, he had the thing there with the preview of Tank Davis versus Frank Martin. Of course, at the opening, if y'all missed it live, we had the Sharpshooter, Greg Outlaw Jr. here with us for about a few minutes. He has his fight coming up June 28th at the Entertainment and Sports Arena against Isidro Curiel, part of that ProBox TV card presented by Team No Excuse or No Excuse Promotions. That's going to be in Washington, D.C. So definitely looking forward to that there on Friday, June 28th there. But we will have more here on the Boxing Source. Of course, we do have the Boxing Source podcast. It's going to be on Sunday night. We're going to be, reacting to that fight card there with Tank Davis and Frank Martin there. That's going to be on Sunday evening, 7:30 p.m. Eastern time here. So definitely look forward to that. And we have more content here on the Boxing Source. We also, had Lamont Roach Jr. On in the previous podcast, and also Derek Scooter Davis on in the previous podcast from that Sunday. And yesterday we had our conversation with Vito Mielnicki Jr., of course, recent signee to Top Rank. So you definitely want to go ahead and check that out if you haven't done so already. So with that being said, that is the midweek report. I will catch y'all later. Peace out.